My name is Octavia Tavi Bain, and at 28, I'm the least impressive daughter of one of the oldest, most respected families in Biloxi, Mississippi. Or at least that's what everyone likes to remind me of. My sister, Althea, became the prodigy, the polished success story, the woman my parents parade around like a trophy. I grew up in the same house with the same blood, but somehow always stood on the wrong side of comparison, like a shadow trailing behind someone else's spotlight. And the truth is, I've spent most of my life feeling like an outsider in my own family, as if there's a part of me they've never wanted to see. I used to think that was just emotional distance, the kind that builds up in quiet rooms and tight smiles, until the night of my birthday, when a single sentence cracked something open and exposed a secret they never meant for me to find. I should have known the real story of my life would begin the moment my father told me I wasn't half the woman my sister is. The chandelier buzzed overhead. Crystal wine glasses clinked. Laughter, rehearsed and hollow, filled the dining hall of the Bain estate. A birthday dinner. My 28th. Linen napkins folded into swans. Steak bled onto fine china. Everything was polished except the truth. Dad stood up slowly, glass in hand, that politician's smile carved into his face. "To my daughters," he said, voice cutting clean through the buzz. Althea, brilliant as ever, about to make partner. "And Tavi," he paused, eyes skimming over me like I was furniture. "Well, not everyone can shine the same. You're not half the woman your sister is, but you try." The table fell silent. The air snapped. Althea looked down. Mom kept sipping like nothing happened. I felt the heat crawl up my spine. My hand trembled under the tablecloth. I stood, pushed my chair back hard enough that it screeched across the hardwood. My glass toppled, red wine spreading across my skirt like a wound. "Then let her take over everything," I said, voice steady but shaking inside. "Starting tonight." A few gasps. Someone coughed. I didn't care. I walked out, past the dining room, down the hallway with all the framed accolades and certificates Althea had earned since childhood. Turned left. The door to my parents' bedroom was slightly ajar. They always kept it locked. Inside, cold air, the faint smell of lavender and old perfume. I stepped in. One of the paintings on the far wall, an oil portrait of our family, was crooked. I tilted it back into place. Heard a click. Behind the frame, a small wall safe. Already open. Scratched around the edges. Panic prickled up my throat. On the floor, a silver case, heavy, with a bio-lock pad blinking red. Someone had tried to open it and failed. Dust was cleared around it. Recently moved. I reached for it, fingertips tingling. A whisper brushed my ear from the dark. "In case she ever finds out." I spun around. No one. Just the low hum of the AC and the ticking of the grandfather clock down the hall. I dropped to my knees, pulled the case toward me. A thin slip of paper slid out from beneath it, brittle and yellowed. Handwritten. Only 4 words. "Not everything is yours." Footsteps. Back hallway. Getting closer. I grabbed the case, shoved it back behind the dresser, fixed the painting, backed out of the room just as the floorboards creaked under weight heavier than my own. Turned. Dad stood there. "You shouldn't be in here," he said, low tight. "I wasn't," I replied. Door was open. He didn't blink, just stared. "Lock it next time," I said. He stepped aside. "Let me pass." But as I walked by, he whispered without turning, "You think you're owed something, Tavi. You're not. Not one goddamn thing." I didn't answer. By the time I reached the guest hallway, my hands were still trembling. I ducked into the powder room, shut the door, leaned against it. The lights flickered. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. "Stay out of the master bedroom. This is your only warning." I stared at the message. Then the screen went black. My reflection in the mirror looked unfamiliar. Pale. Lips pressed into a thin line. "Happy birthday to me," I whispered. What the hell weren't they expecting me to find? I didn't sleep. Not even for a second. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that blinking red light on the biolock pad. That scratched wall safe. That slip of paper with 4 words that didn't belong in a birthday. Not everything is yours. At 6:12 a.m., I was out the door. Biloxi's air hit me like a wet cloth. Humid, heavy, laced with salt and something metallic. A thin layer of sweat coated my skin before I reached my car. Elias Crowley lived 10 minutes away, in a shotgun house his grandfather built. He was the only one who ever told me the truth without choking on it. He opened the door in boxers and a black tank, eyes bloodshot, happy belated. I need you to break open something for me. He blinked once. Define break. Not legally, I said, but not illegally either. Think of it as morally urgent. He rubbed his jaw. Morality's relative. What kind of something? I pulled the silver case from the tote, placed it on his kitchen table. The surface caught the morning light. Scuffed, dented, marked with fingerprints I didn't dare lift. Elias dropped into the chair across from me, whistled. That's military grade. I know. You want me to crack this? I want to know what they're hiding. He hesitated. Tavi, I'm not asking you to steal. I'm asking you to open what they've already tried to erase. He didn't answer, just pulled out a set of tools from a drawer, fingers moving fast. Tick, tick, pop. The lid hissed. We both leaned in. No gold. No money. Inside, a VHS tape, a plastic sleeve with folded documents and a photo. The tape was unlabeled. The photo, aged, edges curled, showed a woman I didn't recognize holding a baby. Her eyes were soft, her face half-lit, but someone had taken a red pen and slashed a thick, angry line across her mouth. Underneath, a name. Margaret Crowley. Elias's entire body stiffened. That's my mother's name. Silence. A long one. I reached for the folder. Old property deeds. Transfers. And one line that made my stomach lurch. Owner, Margaret Crowley. Transfer T.O. Bain Randolph. Power of custody agreement, 1988. Status. Void if contested with valid DNA. I didn't understand half of it, but I understood one thing. The house I lived in might not legally belong to the Bains. Elias. He was already digging into a drawer. Pulled out an old portable VHS player. This is insane. Plug it in. The screen fuzzed. Static danced. Then, a woman's face. The same from the photo. She sat in a hospital gown, holding a baby. Nurses stood in the background. A man's voice off-screen said, "Sign now. We made you a deal." The woman, Margaret, cried softly. Her voice was hoarse. "She's mine. You can't take her." The man again, "You owe us. Sign or she disappears." The tape froze. The screen blacked out. I felt something cold bloom in my chest. That baby. "Don't," Elias warned. But I already knew. The shape of the face. The curls. The eyes. It was me. I looked up. Elias was staring at me like I might combust. "I was never adopted," I whispered. "They took me." "No," Elias said, shaking his head. "That's no. It's not possible." I stood. The air in the room was thick, dense like water. Why was this in their safe? Maybe it's a mistake. It's not. The doorbell rang. We both froze. One ring. Then silence. Elias peeked through the blinds. His face drained. Black sedan. No plates. He turned to me. "You need to leave. Now." "Are you in danger?" "I don't know," he said. "But someone else might think I am." I grabbed the case, stuffed the documents and photo into my bag. The tape stayed. "I'll come back for it." "You won't need to," he said. "I'll find out everything. I promise." The second I hit the street, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. "You don't want to find out who you really are." I blocked the number. My hands were shaking. My brain raced. My body moved on instinct. When your identity becomes a question mark, everything around you turns into a threat. I drove in circles. Lost the black sedan, 3 turns in. Parked at a gas station off Route 90. Locked my doors. Checked my reflection in the rearview mirror. I didn't recognize the woman staring back. I used to think blood made you family, that names meant safety, that the past was dead. Turns out, I've been living someone else's version of my life all along. That woman in the tape, that baby was me. I didn't go home. Not after that text. Not after the tape. Not after Elias's face went pale like he'd seen a ghost, and maybe he had. I parked 2 blocks away from the courthouse. Walked to the county clerk's office, heart pounding like a metronome on steroids. If I was going to untangle this, I needed official records. Birth. Custody. Any legal transfer. The woman behind the desk barely looked up. Name. Octavia Bain. She typed. Frowned. No record under that birth name prior to 1989. My birthday's in 95. She blinked. Rechecked. Oh, she said and turned the monitor slightly. Well, the original birth certificate is sealed. Sealed. Usually happens in adoption cases, or when there's a court-ordered identity change. Blood drained from my hands. Can I request a copy? You'd need a court order or a biological parent's consent. I smiled. Thin. Hollow. Right. I stepped outside into sharp sun. Heat pressed down like guilt. Sealed. Court-ordered. Identity change. That baby in the tape wasn't just me. She had a different name before I became Tavi Bain. My past was a redacted document. Cut 2. I drove straight to the one person I never wanted to ask for anything again. Althea. She was at her condo downtown. Immaculate. Cold. White furniture. White orchids. White lies. She opened the door with a raised brow. To what do I owe this surprise? Do you remember anything about when I was born? Tavi, you were a baby. Not about me. About Mom. Margaret Crowley. That name rang any bells? Her expression flickered, then reset. No, she said. Should it? I stepped closer. Don't lie to me. I'm not. I saw a tape. A woman giving me up. Crying. A man threatening her. Margaret. Mom and Dad took me. Her smile cracked. Where did you see it? She asked too fast. Don't do that. Althea exhaled sharply. You don't know what you're messing with. That's not an answer. I was 9. I heard them talking one night. Dad was yelling. Mom kept saying, it's done. It's ours now. I didn't understand then. Maybe I still don't. I stared at her. So you knew. You knew I wasn't one of you. She flinched. You are my sister. No, I said. I'm your replacement. Cut 2. I got home around midnight. Quiet. Too quiet. The air smelled wrong. Like something had burned and been wiped away. Upstairs, my room was untouched. But the study door was ajar. I walked in. The safe was gone. Gone. Like it had never existed. The wall repainted. Fresh paint. Slightly lighter. Still tacky. On the desk, a post-it. One word. Scribbled. Enough. I opened every drawer. Files gone. Checked under the desk. Pulled open the lower cabinet. There, buried behind old tax folders, was a thin manila envelope. Inside, a photocopy. My medical file. A single lab report, circled in red. Blood type, B negative. My parents? Both O positive. I froze. One of 2 things was true. Either the file was fake, or my blood didn't come from the people who raised me. Cut 2. I ran the faucet, splashed cold water on my face. In the mirror, I caught movement behind me. Spun around. Nothing. Silence roared. My phone buzzed. I grabbed it. Blocked number. You're not who you think you are, but someone still wants you gone. I stared at the screen. My reflection behind it. Another buzz. Look under your bed. Now. My lungs tightened. I turned slowly. Bent down. Shoes. Dust. A crumpled black hoodie. And a flash drive. I plugged it in. A single file. Video. Security cam footage. Time-stamped 3 days ago. The Bain study. Someone, face obscured, opening the safe. Removing the case. Slipping something out. Then lighting a match. The screen froze as the fire bloomed in slow motion. Cut to black. Then white text appeared. It's not about you anymore. It's about what you might remember. I backed away. The door behind me creaked. But I didn't look. I already knew what I'd find. If I'm not a Bain, then who the hell am I? I didn't stay in the house after that flash drive. I left everything. Lights on. Drawers open. My breath still hanging in the air like a warning someone else had whispered. The world felt tilted. Thin. Like one wrong step would send me plunging through the floor. I drove straight to Elias. He didn't answer the door. Didn't text back. Didn't pick up. The porch light was on, buzzing like a dying insect. His truck was parked in its usual spot. Keys still hanging on the hook inside the screened-in entryway. Bad sign. Ugly sign. I pushed the door open. The living room was a mess. A chair knocked over. A glass on the rug, shattered. A smear, dark, dried on the hardwood. Blood. Not much, but enough to say something happened. My throat closed. Elias. My voice cracked. If you're messing with me, this isn't funny. Silence. I checked the hallway. His office. His bedroom. The sheets were pulled halfway off the bed, like someone had grabbed them during a struggle. One pillow on the floor. His backpack spilled open. One of his notebooks was torn. A page still legible. If the Bain documents are real, the entire property line was transferred. Why would? The sentence ended mid-word. Cut to. I stepped into the backyard. My flashlight beam cut through dew and darkness. The grass was uneven, stamped down like someone had dragged something heavy across it. Or someone. At the back fence, near the camellia bushes, something glinted. I knelt. A torn piece of fabric. Denim. And under it, Elias's phone, screen cracked, still buzzing with a low battery warning. And one unread message. From him. Don't trust your father. My lungs locked. Something moved in the woods, behind the fence. A fast blur between the pines. My flashlight caught only branches swaying. Too hard for wind. Then footsteps. I ran. Through the house. Out the front door. Into my car. The engine roared awake. Gravel spit behind me as I tore down the street. I kept hearing an echo in my mind. Something Elias once said on a night when we were teenagers hiding from a storm. Every secret has an expiration date. The dangerous ones just explode instead of expiring. This one felt nuclear. Cut to. I drove back to the Bain estate. Stupid. Reckless. Necessary. The property was dark, except for the porch lantern flickering like a heartbeat about to fail. My palms were slick, heart pounding too loud, too close. Inside, the house felt colder than usual. Wrong cold. The kind that seeped in from something older than the walls. I crept up the stairs. My parents' bedroom door locked now. Repainted section of the wall dry, but uneven. The safe really was gone. Removed. Disappeared overnight. I checked the hallway closet next. Empty. Checked the linen cabinet. Empty. Checked the study. The desk drawers were rearranged. Someone had been here after me. Someone cleaning. Erasing. I pulled out my phone. Tried calling Elias again. Straight to voicemail. Cut to. I turned toward the attic stairs. Something gnawed at the edge of my mind. A memory of the ceiling light flickering last night. A whisper in the dark. I pulled the chain, the attic light blinked to life, dim yellow, sickly. The wooden steps creaked under my weight. Dust spiraled upward like ghosts disturbed. At the far back, under a sheet, I found a stack of old bins. Some labeled, some not. The top bin held outdated tax records, boring, normal. But beneath it, wedged between boxes of Christmas lights and my mother's old photo albums, I found something that didn't belong. A leather-bound notebook. The initials MC burned into the cover. My pulse hammered. I flipped it open. Not a journal. Medical forms. Billing statements. A list of overdue invoices from a rehab center outside Hattiesburg. All under the name Margaret Crowley. The dates didn't match the death year my parents always mentioned. She didn't die in '87. She was alive for years afterward. One page toward the back had been torn violently, ripping through the spine. But the imprint on the next page was still faintly visible. I rubbed pencil across it like Elias taught me. Words emerged. Custody transfer incomplete. Child missing. Surveillance needed. A chill climbed my spine. Another page. They're hiding her. Bain will handle the rest. My knees weakened. They weren't hiding me from the world. They were hiding me from the woman who tried to keep me. Cut to. Footsteps. Below me. Slow. Heavy. Deliberate. Someone was in the house. I turned off the attic bulb. Held my breath. A shadow passed the bottom of the attic stairs. Then another. A man's voice. Low. Familiar. Dad. You should have stayed away from the Crowley boy, he said. Calm. Controlled. Monster smooth. Now you've made everything harder. My fingers clenched the notebook. He paused, right below me, like he could sense my breath through the floorboards. You think you want the truth, Tavi, he said softly, but the truth never wants us. A floorboard creaked. Closer. I pressed my hand over my mouth. My heartbeat thundered in my ears. My dad inhaled deeply, listening. Then, he laughed once, quiet, sharp, and walked away. Cut scene. I didn't exhale until minutes after the front door slammed. I climbed down, legs shaking, ran through the hallway, heart rattling my rib cage. Stopped at the top of the basement stairs. Something echoed from below. A dull thud, then another, like someone hitting the wall. Weakly, rhythmically. No, 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 no. I backed away, every instinct screaming to run. But I couldn't move. Not until I knew. Because if Elias wasn't in his house, and if someone down there was trying to get out, then God help me. If they tried to kill him, I'm next. I didn't go back into the basement. Not yet. Not until I had someone standing beside me who wasn't bound by Bain blood or Bain silence. So I drove to Aunt Belle's house in Ocean Springs. Fast. Too fast. Tires spitting gravel. Wind ripping through the open crack in the window like it was warning me to turn back. Belle opened the door before I even knocked. Her eyes scanned my face once, my wild breathing, my scraped knuckles, the dust from the attic still clinging to my jeans, and she stepped aside. Come in, sweetheart, she said. You look like the truth finally caught you. I dropped the leather notebook on her kitchen table. The thud sounded like a body hitting the floor. Belle slid on her reading glasses. Where'd you find this? Attic, I said. Hidden behind tax boxes. Of course it was, she muttered. People hide their sins in the same place they hide their Christmas decorations. Somewhere they only touch once a year. Her voice was soft, but my heart hammered. She flipped pages slowly, carefully, like the paper might scream. Margaret Crowley's name appeared over and over. She didn't die in 1987. She didn't disappear quietly. She was pushed out of the narrative, like a stain someone tried to scrub. Belle's voice grew tight. These bills, this rehab center, these dates don't match your mother's story. They don't match any story they've ever told me. Belle looked up. There's more, isn't there? I nodded. There's someone in the Bain basement. Her face hardened. Alive! A sound. A thud. Someone trying to get out. Belle closed the notebook slowly. We'll get there. But first, let me play something. She took out an aging portable recorder from her desk drawer. Found this last month going through your grandmother's boxes. Didn't think much of it until now. She pressed play. Static. Then, a woman crying. A man calm and cold. Sign it, he said. No, she whispered. She's mine. You owe us. The breath punched out of me. Belle paused the recording. Her hands shook. That's your father's voice, Tabby. I tasted iron. I think they forced her, Belle said. I think Margaret didn't want to give you up. I know, I whispered, because she signed something that wasn't legal, and someone erased every trace of her life after. Belle stared at me long and hard. You know, there's a saying, the people who tell you to stop digging already know what's buried. She was right. Dad's text, Mom's silence, the missing safe, the destroyed tape. Elias vanished. They weren't protecting me. They were protecting the lie. Cut scene. Belle grabbed her keys. We're going to the estate. Now. The drive felt like slicing through fog and fear. Every car behind us felt too close. Every shadow felt like someone tracking my pulse. When we pulled into the driveway, the house looked smaller, angrier. A storm crawled across the horizon, thick and green, the kind that made the air smell like copper moments before it struck. Belle put a hand on my arm. Whatever we find, remember, truth isn't gentle. It breaks things. I swallowed hard. So do I. Inside, the house was dead quiet. We searched the office first. Empty. The study. Nothing left. Kitchen. No movement. Then the hallway. The basement door was closed. But the faint sound, soft, desperate, echoed just beyond the wood. Belle's breath hitched. That's not an animal. I nodded. We moved together. My hand hovered over the knob. Then, a floorboard creaked above us. Belle's eyes widened. Someone else is here. Cut scene. Light snapped off. Total darkness swallowed the hallway. I grabbed Belle's wrist and pressed her against the wall. My heart hammered so hard I could hear blood sing in my ears. A voice drifted from the top of the stairs. Calm. Controlled. You should have left it alone, Octavia. Dad. Belle whispered, don't respond. His footsteps descended one step at a time. Slow. Heavy. You think you can tear down a family with a few scraps of paper? Dad said, you don't understand anything. Then explain it, I said before Belle could stop me. A low laugh. You want the truth? The truth is a luxury, and luxuries are earned. Lightning cracked somewhere outside, illuminating the staircase for half a second, just enough for me to see. Dad wasn't alone. Mom stood behind him, her face unreadable, her eyes wide and glassy, like she'd finally stepped out of a dream she'd never wanted to wake from. Your father tried to protect you, she said, voice trembling, but you kept pushing. I felt Belle shift beside me, ready, angry. Protect me from what? I asked. Mom blinked. A single tear slid down her cheek. From the woman who wanted you back. The floor dropped out of my lungs. Margaret didn't die, Mom whispered. She came back for you, and we had to make a choice. What choice? My voice cracked. Dad answered. The kind you don't undo. A boom echoed below us. The basement door shook. Someone, slammed against it. Belle grabbed my arm. Who did you lock down there, Dad? I shoved the basement door open. It screamed on rusted hinges, a howl that split the air like bone cracking. Belle moved first, flashlight out, the beam slicing down the steps. I followed, breath shallow. My father didn't try to stop us. He just stood there, frozen, the stormlight behind him turning him into a silhouette of a man already judged. We descended. The smell hit first. Damp wood, bleach, and something metallic, something wrong. The light landed on her. A woman. Thin. Pale. Wrists bruised. Shackles on one ankle. She squinted at us, recoiled from the light. And then Octavia. My knees nearly buckled. It wasn't Margaret. It was Joni Tressel, the missing nurse from AMC. Belle gasped. They kept her alive. Joni's voice cracked. They thought I knew too much. About Margaret. About what happened. They said if I ever spoke. We're getting you out of here, I said, rushing forward, yanking at the chain. Belle's phone lit up. I'm calling the cops. Cut scene. Blue and red lights flashed across the Bain estate 37 minutes later. Dad sat cuffed on the porch, face gray. Mom didn't speak. She just wept. Silent. Hollow. Sheriff Camden didn't even look at me. His eyes were locked on the basement stairs. Find out what else is down there, he told his deputies. Everything. Every box. Every file. Joni was taken to the hospital. I rode with her. Held her hand. I thought no one would come, she whispered. They fed me lies. Told me the outside forgot me. That if I tried to scream, no one would care. They lied, I said, like they always do. Cut scene. The investigation exploded fast. Nolan's name surfaced within days. So did a second ledger. This one tied to AMC's board, to donations that didn't exist, to patient records falsified for years. Elias had fled the country, but the DOJ issued a warrant. The walls were closing fast. Belle and I testified. Margaret's death was ruled a homicide, delayed. She'd returned in 2012, demanded her daughter back, and died mysteriously a week later, her body buried under the gazebo behind the Bain Lake House. My father confessed to nothing, but silence in court often sounds like guilt. He pled guilty to kidnapping Joni, to obstruction, to conspiracy, not to murder. The DA called it justice. I called it a start. Cut scene. Weeks later, I stood in Margaret's graveyard. A real one this time, with a name etched in stone. Belle beside me. Wind carrying ash leaves across the hilltop. She fought, I said, until her last breath. Because you were worth it, Belle said. I didn't reply. Some truths are heavier than words. Cut scene. I moved to Atlanta. Started over. A new last name. Tressel. Not Bain. I wanted to build something that couldn't be erased, hidden, or shackled. Joni lives 3 blocks away now. She's learning to sleep without nightmares. Me too. Some nights, I wake up in a sweat. Hear basement doors slamming in my dreams. Feel ghosts breathing behind mirrors. But I remind myself, evil hides in silence. And I'm not silent anymore. There's this quote I tell myself before sleep. We are not what they did to us. We are what we choose to do next. And I chose to tell it all. Even the parts that made me bleed. Especially those.